We good now?
I think so.
All right.
Give someone. He's right. Sorry.
We're good. Put that up there.
Okay, Mr. Glancy, would you bring us up a little review on this petition, please?
So this petition was a variance for a setback from the front yard because the proposed building was going to be in front of the yard, not really in front of the house. The front of the yard is defined by the very front of the house. You draw a line perpendicular or parallel to the road. And before the variance hearing, I had put the assessment together, and since then, the building has come up, so things as far as the setbacks are just a little, or not the setbacks, but how much it's in the front yard is a little different than what was proposed at the beginning. But now we know exactly where the building is going to be. And I believe that is now positioned 21 feet and 2 inches forward from the front plane of the dwelling. It is approximately 70 feet from the road, and it's placed in an agricultural area. Really not any neighbors around. It's not obstructing any view from traffic as you go in and out of the driveway. And so at this point, we're waiting on the variance to be able to place a building permit and start the inspections.
Okay, so was the contractor notified that this occurred, that he built this barn without a building permit posted on site?
Yes,
Yes,
I did talk to him, yes.
and I sent a letter.
You sent a letter to him? Okay.
Stopped by, we had a nice visit on site.
Okay, then. At this point, I believe we had all the testimony and that we're into board discussion. So at this time, is there anything you would like to add before we move on? Give you a minute or two here. But I think we pretty much exhausted it last time.
Yeah.
Okay. I thank you then, and you may be seated.
Okay.
At this point, we'll open it up for any further discussion from the board. We have a situation where a building was put up without a building permit, without a variance. We've seen the project. It's complete. And do we wish to give a variance for the structure is the question before us.
Mr. Chair, my understanding, I guess, based on the secondary review is that unable to actually authorize the permit or do the inspections based on the fact that the variance was never granted. So the building itself has never been actually inspected. Is that my understanding as well?
That's correct.
So they're waiting on the variance in order to be able to do the inspection, or should the inspection?
Well, the normal process is they come in for a building and it's reviewed by our office and determine if there's a variance needed. And if there is, then that has to be granted before they get a building permit.
That's what I understood. I just thought it was important to put it on the record,
Right.
that the building itself has not been inspected.
Right, and a permit was never issued. It was paid for, but never issued. And the reason that we continued was because the sign was not up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Okay. So, any further discussion?
Yeah, the fact that, this building was built kind of illegally in a way, because, he should have known to get, or his contractor should have known that they need these things before they start that building. And,
Yes.
Do we have a fine system where that, this has happened, we don't want to tear down the building, but just to say, we just can't just say, okay, because we're not going to start the precedent that everybody starts building, then we come down here and say, okay, I'm here. So is there, maybe, if there's a fine to say that, I made this mistake, and this guy's, apologize, but I'm going to make him tear down the building, so I think that a fine would be fine, and then we move on.
Yes, I believe there is a fine for beginning without a permit. I think it's called the early bird fine. Is that correct, Mr. Clancy?
So the letter that I sent out to the contractor was first, it's a notice of violation of stop work order. So this is just notice. This is not the actual fine. This needs to be resolved before the fines happen as far as the variance. So there's a construction prior to permit issuance, and that the construction activity commenced before proceeding without issuance of an improvement location permit. That's $240. And failure to request and obtain required inspections. Required inspections were not requested or conducted during the construction activity, and that can be $250 per inspection. That was missed. And the building's not completely done. The floor's not in. I believe we're going to put a concrete floor, and there's no electrical installed at this point.
So how many inspections, Mr. Delancey, would you have expected if, at this point?
Well, the hardest one, the one that really is a critical one, is inspecting of the post. When they put the posts in the ground, that they're deep enough, and that there's a disc or concrete at the bottom of that. And so those are normally done before they're, as soon as they're dug. And then there's other structural permits after that, and then electrical. And those are pretty easily done all at one time before they cover. So it's before you cover type of permit. So
How many
after
violations are?
the most critical one that needs to be done is that you have to wait until it thaws all the way, which get pretty close, is to be able to run a rod down and measure how far it is to what they call the cookie or whatever they put down there that's hard at the bottom, to make sure that the posts are set deep enough. The rest of it is still open enough, it's not closed in, and the inspector will
Looking at-
install that.
Well, in our
Two fines
situation,
at this point,
yeah,
from what I've understood, you say.
enforcement is up to the office. We're here to decide on a variance. And we will trust that Mr. Clancy administers fines fairly. Okay,
For purpose of communicating the issue to the general public, I think it would be pertinent to understand what the levy is that we potentially, the either the property owner or the contractor, whoever would be assigned that fine, would be looking at, so as to other people, other potential builders, understanding what they would be looking at if they don't follow process and procedure as outlined in.
It really doesn't have anything to do with the contractor, it's the property owner that has to make sure that they're in violation of all the things they need to do when they do so, not the contractor folks, the property owners. So, that's what the ordinance says in there. Is that right, Ed?
Well,
I think
the
so.
property owner is eventually responsible.
Yes.
The contractor, if they're going to do work in Grant County, they need to obey by our laws.
Right.
And we need to warn them,
Yeah.
you know, for these kind of behaviors, because sometimes their schedule is such that they would like to do this project right away and go on to another project or such, and they'll sometimes encourage, so to speak, the owner to go ahead without all the paperwork done so that they can move on quickly, or that they don't want to wait for inspections to the next day, sometimes after they place a call. But they do have to obey the rules, whether it's inconvenient or not. So anyway, I think we need to move on here to deciding, are we doing this variance?
I'd like to make a motion that we do.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to grant the
I'll
variance.
second the motion.
We have a second from Mr. Duke. We
I
had
would
a-
make the comment that this is difficult to
Yeah.
swallow, but in answering the 4 questions on our findings of fact, the one question I would say, even though I'm seconding it, is that the nature of the situation is truly a hardship that will result or could result if we did not grant the variance to the property owner.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Webb. We have a second from Mr. Duke. Is there any further discussion among the board? Okay, hearing none. Would you give us a roll call vote, Mr. Clancy?
Michael Duke,
Yay.
Andy Ellis,
Yes.
Lois Jones,
No,
Chad Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Wilbur Webb.
Yes.
Motion passed. You have your variance, Mr. Stroop.
so Mr. Michael will make sure that the
Yes.
fines are enforced.
Right.
Yes, okay. Okay.
As well as inspections, right? It's just that
Right.
we're backwards here.
Yeah, they'll have to run a probe down to the footer
Yeah.
and see how deep it is when the ground's thawed out.
So Todd, did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, next public hearing is continued public hearing. William Francis, a variance for setback and dwelling size, docket 001-26 for 1407 Muncie Pike, Jonesboro, Indiana. You.
I'm Joe Musser. I'm representing Mr. Francis tonight he's from Fairmount, as you see on his application. He's an experienced builder in Grant County.
Okay, would you both sign in?
For those reports on the housing situation.
Before we start, does everybody have the findings of fact sheets from the last one and this one?
I don't.
I forgot, I'm sorry. I looked at it very well, so I don't really need one.
So no one had no findings of fact for the last docket? You do?
I don't.
I reviewed mine pretty heavy, so nothing. Did you need, I don't have one, but I did that as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, we need
so
those
anyone else would need one, that's okay.
filled out. Do you have one?
I do not.
Okay, I need two. You're
I don't
good.
need one.
You need one? Three? Three. And then do you have findings of fact for this one? And we have carryovers.
Yeah, so I got
Whether you have them or not, I'll get the other one.
last package.
Okay, would you tell us a little bit about your project?
I think we got our sign up for the required 2 weeks this time around.
Okay,
Nailed it to the tree.
I saw it.
Mr. Francis is proposing to, in planning a affordable housing project on Muncie Pike on the south side of Jonesboro, consisting of 11 units, having square footage of 560 square feet to 640 square feet. We're needing a variance of the R4 zoning with regard to the minimum square footage of the units from 720 to a minimum of 560, and a variance of the 20-foot separation between buildings, reducing that to 15 feet for 2 of the 3 buildings. And I think you have a layout, a plan of how that's to be laid out. So this is long-range planning. There's no city utilities at that location at this point. That is being aggressively sought after by the city of Jonesboro, which is supportive of this project. Both the city, I think you have a letter from the mayor maybe, and I think Mr. Schultz here on the planning commission is also supportive of this. I asked Lindsay Howe, who's a veteran realtor there in Mill Township, about this issue of need for affordable housing in Jonesboro, and she volunteered to prepare this report, which establishes in her experience and knowledge a great need for affordable housing in Jonesboro. And this plan would hope to satisfy that need. So I guess all of the plan in relation to the requirements of the Plan Commission centers largely around the issue of affordability of housing and the need for housing in Jonesboro. I think that's essentially the proposal. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay, I don't believe we have any questions at the moment. You may be seated. Is there anyone here in opposition to this petition? Please come forward at this time.
Okay, hello, my name is Gina Jones, and I live at 1504 Muncie Pike, across the street from this development, and I've lived there for 30 years. And I was here last meeting, but of course, Mr. Francis didn't have his signage up. It is up, and he's ready to go. So I'm here to talk about the square footage of the apartments and the building separation variance that he's requesting. I called today to try and find out some information about what the buildings would actually look like. And I spoke to a secretary, and she pulled up the docket 001-26, and she said there was no copies in the development of the plan that would show where the apartments and how the buildings would be located on the property. I was concerned about how the residents would enter the parking lot, whether it be from Muncie Pike or from the one-way Walker Street. As they say, it's a long-term plan, because as of my knowledge, in November, Jonesboro had not received their grant for a lift station for the people in that area who have old septic systems, old infrastructure that would be tying into the sewer systems, that they did not receive their grant. Now, that could have changed since November, but I went to a meeting, and at that meeting, the mayor of Jonesboro told me that when Mr. Francis approached him about this development, that he offered many other properties in Jonesboro that the city already owned that would not need an R4 or a variance for these buildings, but he did not seem interested, still wanting to proceed with these 4 lots on Muncie Pike. He did initially receive his R4 zoning, and in the beginning he stated that this was for the elderly, 55 and older, or for veterans. And then here tonight he's saying it's for affordable housing. And Indiana law doesn't discriminate on age unless the community decides that they're going to list this as a 55 and older development. Crime rates with just renting to anyone, this is a kind of a rural, it's on this, south end of Jonesboro. I'm actually Middle Township, but, we have a quiet neighborhood, rural character. All of our neighbors, I basically hardly ever lock my door except when I go to bed. So this gives me, some type of concern about who will be living in these supposedly now, instead of 14, 11 units just across the street from me. And I have 6 acres and a pond, no fencing up or anything, just kind of a little concerning to me about who would be living there. And I'm just very worried about that. So I think, I have nothing against Mr. Francis. I'm sure he's a fine man and a developer, but, he keeps changing all of his plans. And, when you're asking for actually required, and unusual hardship is defined as a particular or unique condition of property that is usually not found on other lots in the same zoning district or surrounding neighborhood, which would make development according with these zoning regulations. A small change or a different design or a different plan would not even necessitate these variances that he's trying to get. If it's not truly a necessary, it could also be the property could be used for other reasonable under current rules, even if it's less profitable. It could be used in like a single family dwelling that could be built there. So it just causes public safety concerns for me. Originally I spoke of, even though he's developing it, the stormwater runoff, the increased traffic on that street, and also the older infrastructure that they're trying to, get sewer out to that area, which there's not there yet, plus, the added of these supposedly 11 apartment buildings on the already taxed infrastructure in the area. Right now he's been, using it as a used car lot, and at times there's nothing against that. At times there's been up to, 5, 6 cars there. Now there's 3, and I'm okay with the used car lot. I'm just not all that, okay with a development like this. One thing that also could affect is my property value and also the property values of our neighbors. I know that Jonesboro would really like the taxes that would come from that, the money that would come from all of the water and sewage usage in the area, the revenue. And, nothing is set in stone that he will stay with what he's, trying to develop. And new structures are really nice when they're brand new, but they could change hands. People care about their property when it's a single dwelling. But when you're just renting, you really don't care too much about how and the upkeep of your property. Once you give these variances, the variances, under my understanding, stay with the property. So if you would give those variances, he could sell to someone else, and the variances don't just drop off if he's not the owner anymore. The variants stay with the life of the property, just like the R4 zoning that's there now. Also, an increase in crime with multiple units can also cause problems, I just wanted to state, in our quiet rural neighborhood. I did some zoning ordinances look up, and the scope and the function of the Board of Zoning Appeals ensures that the community development and growth with the rules set forth in chapter Powers of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Not that I just want to read it. I know you guys understand it, but item 153098, item B, In consideration of all appeals and proposed special exceptions or variances under the terms of this chapter, the board shall, before approving any special exception or variance from this ordinance in a specific case, first determine that it will not impair or adequate of our supply of air or light to each adjacent property, unreasonable increase in congestion in the public street, diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area, or in any other respect impair the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or welfare. And also, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall approve or deny a special exception from the terms of the chapter land usage only after this public hearing has been had. Item 153.115, general development. In this chapter, the special exception is considered with the spirit, purpose, and intent of these regulations and will not substantially and permanently injure the approved use of neighboring property and will serve the public convenience and welfare.
I need
And
to
after-
stop you right there.
Uh-huh.
We're considering a variance and not a special exception.
Not a special exception.
And I think we probably know the law pretty well.
I know you do, and I didn't want to disrespect you on that.
Would you bring your comments to a close here as soon as
Yes.
possible?
I just respectfully ask you to please deny these variances. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
I'd like to make one point on.
Yes.
That was made, was the APC heard this, same case for zoning change.
Right.
And the zoning change is pending the variance.
Right.
So
I
if
was
there's
gonna
no
make that
variance,
point
then
when
the
we
zoning
finish.
change is
Yes.
null, so they're tied
Which
together.
is still R2 at the moment, in other words.
I believe it's RS, and we're moving it to R4.
RS, okay.
The
Looks like
application said
R2 on the application, but, okay.
It is R2.
Yeah, yeah.
R2.
Okay, R2.
Regardless, the zoning is pending.
Yes,
decision
it's R2 at the moment. Could change to R4 based on our decision here. Would you give us your name, please?
My name is Christine Crockett. I live at 1513 Muncie Pike, south of the property that is considering being built on. I believe Gina has said more than, there's really nothing more I need to say other than at the last meeting that we were here, someone spoke of having police protection. I don't know the time frame, but I know from different problems that I've had on my property, there is not police enforced 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in Jonesboro, to where you can actually call. So that's just my, like what Gina said, if there is crime with different situations that it can occur with the units being rented out to different people. That's my only concern is, if we need to contact police or for
Yes.
safety reasons. So that's
Right. And you would call 911 call center and they would dispatch somebody if nobody's on duty. They would probably be coming from Marion.
Yeah, I understand that. I've had to call, but on a non-emergency, but it's just,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Okay, we'll close the public hearing at this time and we'll open it up for board deliberation. And you may ask any of the people that spoke any questions to clarify anything that you're looking for.
Does the petitioner have a rebuttal option at this point?
Yes, the petitioner does have a rebuttal option. Would you like to speak for a few minutes?
Can I just say something just real quick? I actually had my tape measure out here before you guys got here. And 600 square foot is basically here to the other side of that pole, if you squared it off, that's about 600 square foot as far as living space. So what that means is, could you put a one-bedroom apartment in that living space? If you can picture it in your mind, the way costs are for oil and heat and electric, everything's going smaller so people can afford it. If you don't want to do low cost housing, then build big buildings. These big ones you can't afford to do them anymore. So that's why we're going smaller as a whole. And I think, Jonesboro will be better off for it, to be quite honest. That's all I have to really say.
Just a comment on the entrance to the proposed development. It's off of Walker Street, not off of Muncie Pike. And I guess as you could know from your own experience, there was a lot of speculation about the tenants that might live in these apartments. There haven't been really any changes. I don't believe in Mr. Francis' concept of providing affordable housing there, whether it be for older people or veterans or whoever. And it seemed like there was a lot of speculation about the ill effects of having 3 buildings with 11 units in them there at the Muncie Pike location.
Excuse me, are you saying there's 11 units now? Because the drawing I got shows 14.
Yes, there's 11.
Where is it reduced?
The 24 by 80 building is reduced from 4 to 3. The 2 24 by 100 buildings reduced from 5 to 4. So that's a 600 square foot and 640 square foot apartment. I'm not sure where.
Enlarge the size of the individual units by doing that.
Is it the outside perimeter still the same of these buildings?
Yes.
Okay, so the insides of each one got bigger,
Yes,
like you
slightly.
said. I noticed in the driveway here, it looks like it's about a foot from the wall.
No, it's not.
What is it really?
No, it's not. It's 5 foot. And also there's a right of way over here of 50 feet. When there's a 50-foot right of way, just some shy of that driveway as well. So there's plenty of room there as well.
Okay, well, it's 5 foot on the drawing here between the parking space and the door or the front wall. I also noticed that there's an awning drawn on there with posts, and they're 6 feet out, so I guess they're out in the parking spot?
No,
No? Need to make some adjustments here?
yeah, they'll be within limits when it comes time to actually build.
So you have head-in parking right at the front of the building,
There'll be a 5-foot stoop there.
at 5 foot from the front wall. So.
Correct.
And you go in and out the front door there too.
Yes.
Now, one bedroom apartments,
One bedroom.
so there'll be occupancy limits to.
No more than 2 person per.
Correct.
The more you add, the more problems you have.
And then how do you control that?
It'll be in the lease.
Property man.
It'll be in the lease.
Has there, Mr. Glancy, has the drainage board looked at this?
That happens when we go to get the building permit. So when the IPL is issued, before we issue it, we go to the health department one, and then the drainage board the second, to the surveyor, basically.
Can I say something about the drainage as well? Currently, there is not city sewage. We have city electric, we have city water, but we don't have sewage. So what I'm waiting on before I start this project is the city, not guaranteed, but they wrote a grant last year. It was denied by 2 points. I talked to the people. They said it was just some pictures weren't very good. So supposedly they're going right back for this $1.4 million grant, and it should. Bob said to me, by spring or late spring, there should be drainage, they should start digging on that drainage system for this property. I mean, I'm not gonna put any unit, I'm not gonna start break ground until I have somewhere to do the sewage. It just doesn't make any sense to do it. So I'm just trying to get ahead before the sewage gets there, because I'm thinking it's going to, because they told me it has been. So that's sort of what I'm doing here now.
It looks like the property extends into the valley or gully that's behind. Would that be accurate? You're gonna fill in
Yes.
the drainage ravine?
Basically, all that's gonna be there is the trash bin, big trash bin. That's the only thing that's gonna be in that one corner that's over the water.
Except for fill.
That's filled, yes.
What is the width of the lot along Wheeling Pike?
Oh, gosh. To the top of my mind, boy, I think it's, well, you can add it up real quick, I guess. No, we can't on this one. It's 40, 40, 49. Gosh, I don't have, it's, man, it's not on that list right there. It's probably going, I think it's 432 feet is what I think it is. Good on this one. Nope. I wrote it down on something.
The reason you asked?
I was
Nope.
looking,
542.85. I knew I had it.
542.
Yeah, 0.85. I've walked this off. There's plenty of room to build this once you guys get approval. I've walked it, I've measured it, I've not staked it yet, but I was waiting for you, you guys to decide.
And it is, maybe you can't answer that, but maybe somebody on the board can. Is Wheeling Pike considered an arterial road or a local road?
I mean,
I think there's a distinction.
I mean, historically, Wheeling Pike has been a thoroughfare between Jonesboro and Muncie. In fact, within the city limits, it's called Muncie Pike.
Right.
And so, whether or not it would still be considered arterial, I don't know. But I consider it a Class 2 road, at least equal to Water Street and Jonesboro or Main Street. That's traffic coming from the south end. We get a lot of traffic from the south, just going into the school right there at King's Academy. So, if there are traffic concerns on the smaller street, I maybe understand that. I don't see that 11 more cars
Dead end.
would be an issue on Muncie Pike specifically.
I'm just trying to make sense out of all we had in the packet is this diagram. And it didn't have very much in the way of measurements on it. It doesn't have the lot width, but I'm thinking in terms of the front. I know it's not part of the variance,
Yeah.
but in terms of the front setback, if it's arterial, it's a 30-foot setback. I mean, it's a 15-foot setback. Under a local road, it would be a 10-foot setback, which the diagram has it in compliance with. But if it's an arterial road,
Yeah.
then the setback on the front is not quite enough.
I don't know what the definitions would be as far, but I will say it connects, it connects Jonesboro and Matthews and Muncie. It's an outside city limits connector.
I would consider that to be a major thoroughfare myself.
But there is a 50-foot right-of-way off that Wheeling Pike as well.
The other question I had was, what's the limiting factor that's driving the reduced floor plan and the reduced separation? Is it that ravine that is over there that
Part of it. And parking takes up huge amount of space. But every unit has 2 parking spots as well. So that's sort of the defining factor of why that's the way it is. As far as
Affordability.
yeah, affordability, the smaller they are, the cheaper they are to heat, the cheaper they, they're going to be total electric apartments. So it's not like, if you give them a 1,200 unit and they're only making $785 a month, how are they going to get 1,200 when their electric bill's $587? I mean,
And may I? So to the point is where the driveway comes in, that is considered the front yard.
Not wheeling pipe.
Not really quite, that'd be but it'd still be ulterior road. That's what we would consider it.
I mean, I've counted cars on that, just sat there and watched cars go by. It's a busy thoroughfare, it really is. I'm sure you guys know the area as well. So you've gone down it 100 times to Muncie. Any other questions? Just want to say,
Thank you.
my subdivision was 40 acres. I built 12 to 15 houses on 12 of them. Septics, wells, roads, sewage, drainage, did it all. This will be about a fifth of that property. If I get the stuff, I'll have it done in 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, this is a very big variance compared to what we generally grant. Just putting that out there. It's quite a change for the R2 zone.
In observation of the neighborhood around there, there's no like multiple family dwellings like apartments as is being proposed.
Yes, it's all
I
single
would
family.
wonder aloud, and I don't have an answer for this right now, but what the impact is on the property value of the existing homes that surround and populate that neighborhood. That there's no other apartment, this would be the only apartment complex, if you will, loosely said.
Well, there's others in Jonesboro.
In Jonesboro, but I'm thinking in that immediate area along Wheeling Pike.
Well, yeah.
Along
Well, you're on the edge of town, so of course, you cut down what's close to you. When you're on the edge of town, there's not a whole lot close to you. There's one there on 8th Street, 8th and Water, and the big one out on 6th, across from the school, 6th Street. There are a few amongst other single family houses.
I mean, I personally would like to see a commitment to see, utilities ran to the area prior to breaking ground, and I know that was the intent, as I've heard. Mostly just because of infrastructure, because it is going to put tax on it, and then the ravine in the back, which is a natural drainage. So we start putting a lot of folks in a small area. So it'd be, I don't know if there's a way to put that into the variance to make sure that those things are taken care of before it moves forward. I mean, because once the variance is, at least for us, it's out of our hands.
Well, there is no way to do this without sewage system. There's not land available unless you buy land nearby and run it to it. And that would be a mound type system.
But you wouldn't think that they could supply this with wells and septic.
Not on that small
Not on that spot.
Not for that many.
I'm not going to put what's it said. On that amount of property, you could maybe put 2 houses and 2 wells and septics, but the way the ground is, because all the other septics are failing, that ground probably wouldn't even percolate. Couldn't even build, maybe a mound.
Now, Ed, you said that it's a big variance. Is it because from R4 to R2, or is it because of the size of the units is a variance and then the distance parts are?
Yeah, well, we got to consider it as R2 at the moment because that's what it is.
Right.
And R2 kind of fits the neighborhood, mainly single family residents.
Right.
And
Well, as far as
it's a big change from that.
absolutely. As far as the others are concerned, though, the 600 square foot apartments, I know that's less than
22%
it is,
reduction.
but
Yes.
there are a lot of those out there. That would not be a huge difference for the marketplace. No, there's a lot of 600 square foot apartments out there.
And the area plan commission may want to look at what should the minimum square footage be if 720 is too much.
And then the distance between the buildings, that can be rectified with firewalls, right? Do I understand that correctly?
Well, we didn't discuss firewalls, even between units or between buildings.
I thought that was something
Yeah.
that another board would take it in the construction process.
In the construction process, they should determine if it needs firewalls
Right.
between
Right.
units.
Right.
That'd be recommended whether it's required or not, but,
Right.
okay.
With-
Anyway,
With this being, sewage not being there yet, it- I'm thinking of asking representative from Jonesboro if, what's the expectation of this grant that's being applied for? How long is that 6 months? Is that a year?
So the reality is we're running sewer there. We have to. The state has told us we have to. Multiple citizens that live on Muncie Pike have, several of my neighbors, in fact, have failing, leaking septic systems, and they are not able to build new ones because of the new health requirements. It may feel rural. It is rural right across the road, but this is the city limits of Jonesboro, and the state has made it clear that we need to move sewer there. So it's a grant that we can apply for every 6 months, and I intend to apply for it every 6 months until I die, after the mayor stops, if he doesn't get it. So as Mr. Francis said, we have a very reliable grant writer, and we've won grants in the past, and they told us this one was off by 2 points. There's a point system, and some of the paperwork just wasn't. On the clerical side, it wasn't as clean as some others had been. So we're hoping to get more letters of intent. Having more development in that area would certainly help get it points. So it's not a question of if there will be sewer, it's a question of when.
we're going to
Now,
have to move on.
Yeah.
And this is irrelevant to our decision right now. Because if that doesn't happen, it's not going to happen, So what we've got to decide is, are we going to pass a variance now? Are we going to turn a variance down now? Or are we going to give a contingency variance? If this, then that, which is what basically Area Plan Commission did. They made their rezoning contingent upon us approving it. But still, there's many,
Many questions.
this is a little bit loose
I was thinking,
compared to how we normally would like to have things nailed down.
yeah, I was thinking in terms of if we turned it down tonight, the petitioner could come back and
Yeah, when
try
things are
again in
possible.
a year,
Yeah,
if that.
if that's
the
actually
time
changed
frame.
anything.
And we have more of,
Okay. Anyway, at this time, I think we've about exhausted the deliberation on this, and we need to make a motion. And if no one wants to make a motion, then it would die without a motion.
I would make a motion that we don't approve this,
Okay, we have a motion to deny this variance. Do we have a second?
I would second.
We have a second. We have a motion from Mrs. Jones and a second from Mr. Duke. Could we have a roll call, please?
Michael Duke,
I'm saying yes to the deny. Yes.
correct.
Correct.
Andy Ellis,
No.
Lois Jones,
yes.
Chad Kirkpatrick,
No.
Wilbur Webb.
No.
We got 3-2. Ed?
Yes. Motion did not, motion,
We're tied.
we're tied. A tie does not pass the motion.
So is it moot to make a motion to approve at this point?
You could do it, but I don't think there'd be much change. Yeah.
So it's pretty moot to do it. Could we have it,
If you want to, you can do it.
can we make a motion to continue?
Normally,
Contingent?
yeah, normally they can come back in a year,
Okay.
which might fit the time frame anyway. So at this point, the variance is not approved. It's been denied. And you may return in a year to reapply. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a public hearing with John Lannon, variance for setbacks, docket 003-26, 1026 Massachusetts Avenue, Matthews, Indiana. Now, I believe we were having him back after the APC approved a rezoning, is that correct?
The rezoning is at the APC meeting upcoming after this meeting.
I thought we had him down to return in April.
You did. I thought it was for a different variance that he had to apply
Yeah.
for, something to do with the driveway or a setback from the driveway or something of that nature.
Right, so we need to go to, this needs to go to,
Kind of a chicken and egg situation.
Yes, the Area
Yeah.
Plan Commission
yeah, it's
needs
going
to meet
back and forth.
first.
We talked about this last month, and we decided, we continued it.
I thought we found that we needed a different a different variance for, than what was proposed for, I was thinking it had something to do with the driveway or the.
Well, we were gonna get the zoning approval first, and then come back
Yes, he's on the agenda for the APC
on
tonight,
the agenda for the
so he's
APC.
stay for that meeting.
I just put it in the old business, so
Okay,
it's on old business, we don't forget about it.
all right, so yes, sir, in the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay, so
For the zoning.
Tonight, yes.
Okay.
So it needs to be
Rezone.
rezoned from
Right.
business to residential prior
Yes,
to.
right.
And then that will be dependent upon the variance.
Correct. So, new business. John Keach, side yard setback, docket 007-26, 2315 North River Road, Marion, Indiana.
I know, it's a lot of paper in it.
Yes, sir.
Hi. I don't know what all information you have, but basically what my property, I want to build an outbuilding, and the setbacks is supposed to be 20 feet. My ask request is to shift the one corner back, so it'd only be like 16 feet in the one corner to kind of angle it, just because of the practicality in regards to the driveway. The driveway comes up that hill, it comes up on a real big curve. I just bought this place this last fall. And so my request is to move it back. If I have to stay at the 20 feet, the actual eave trough would be right on the edge of the driveway. And so I see that as a safety issue for delivery trucks coming in, or what do I do with the snow when I go through there? So I am asking for that. I did talk to all the neighbors that had property that adjacent, that touched it. Nobody had an issue. Everybody said, fine, no problem. And I went to the HOA meeting last Tuesday, and again, no issues was raised. Everyone seemed to be quite happy and fine with it. It is such a thing as there's, I don't know if you have a picture there or not, but there's a row of shrubs that go right behind it. Actually, no one had ever seen the difference. But I just want to get it off my driveway enough to be practical. I'm not sure what the information you would like to have. It's just okay. Yeah, you got a picture there of that. Then hopefully you can see the driveway. It's kind of hard to make any adjustments. It's the difficulty of just the way the property's laid out. There's nothing square on that property.
All right, do you have city sewers out there?
No, they have no septic. And septic's in the front yard.
Septic's in the front yard?
Yeah, it's on the other side of the driveway.
All right. Okay.
May I ask how close the proposed structure is going to set adjacent to the asphalt?
Well, with the variance, it would now then be 6 feet away from the driveway.
With the variance, so you have
Well, 5.5 feet actually, yes.
So you have 5.5 feet from the side wall of the building
Yes.
to the asphalt.
Yes. Yeah. Which is enough to be comfortable, but I just, like I say, without it, you're talking about 18 inches, then you're overhanging the eavesdrop, you're right on the edge of the driveway. And so I'm just afraid, I'm gonna say two things, of delivery trucks, UPS or whatever comes in. It's not gonna be a real tall building, so it's not like, and then also, what do I do with the snow if it's right up next to the driveway? It's like, what do you do?
Should it be 25 feet or 20 feet? Because you're referencing 20 feet,
That's what I was told, 20 feet.
and then the compliance documents references 25 feet.
I was informed of 20 feet, that's what I was told.
So, the way I understand your request is you want to be 4 feet farther to the property line in the one corner,
Yes,
based on where you want to place the unit.
right, that's pretty practical. It's practically the only place you really can put it on that way that property is laid out. It's kind of odd shaped.
Okay. But according to the development requirements, it sounds like that actually the whole building, not just a corner, is closer. So I guess I would look for clarification. Is it 20 or is it 25?
That's 25.
Oh, it is.
It does say 9 foot. It does say, yeah, I know. what you're saying.
Because
Down there it's a 9 foot.
it's not more than, because it's a very wide lot. It's either 10% of the lot width or 25 feet is the maximum. So it would have been much longer than that if you calculate the 10%.
Correct. His building will range between 16 on the front corner, 20 foot in the back corner.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be angled like that until tonight. So by the time you get to the other end of the building, you're within the setback.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, I did say.
So he wants to reduce it down to 16 feet.
Just in that one, excuse me, in that one corner
That would be 20 feet.
on the other corner. Yeah.
Yeah, the back doesn't matter, so it's just that side.
All right. Any other questions? You may be seated. Is there anyone here in opposition to this petition? Please come now. Hearing, seeing none. We'll close the public hearing. Time for board deliberation. Is there any further discussion needed here? Hearing none. If someone would like to make a motion, I'll entertain a motion now.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Mr. Duke is making a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Ellis is seconding. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sorry, what was the, who made the motion and seconded?
Mr. Duke made a motion. Mr. Ellis seconded it to approve the variance.
Okay, thank you. Michael Duke,
Yes.
Andy Ellis,
Yes.
Lois Jones,
Yes.
Chad Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Wilbur Webb,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. You have your variance, sir. Appreciate you doing things the right way.
Mr. President, may I give you some additional information
Okay.
for your perusal? I suggest maybe checking out Indiana Code 36-7-4-918.5. Talks about a Board of Zoning Appeals shall approve or deny variances from the development standards of the zoning ordinance. So that tie vote, I was a little bit concerned, so I researched that. I'm not sure a tie suffices. Now, if your interpretation is because it did not pass, that's a denial, so be it. But I'm just wondering if it should be continued until you have a full board to rule on that. That's your discretion. I just wanted to point that out.
Even when you don't have a full board, you have to have 4 votes, as long as you have a quorum, right? So I think we had a legal vote.
So you,
But the tie is a kind of a difficult situation when you've got that. I mean,
I just wanted
the
to point that out for your
chairman can
consideration.
make a tie or break a tie.
It just says a Board of Zoning Appeals shall approve or deny variances.
Yes.
And if the interpretation is that it was denied because there was not a majority in
pass.
favor. Right.
Yes.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, but
Yes.
I think we're on pretty solid ground here because it did not pass.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Lee Till, side yard setback, docket 008-26, 516 Nancy Drive, Sweetser, Indiana. Okay, sir, would you like to tell us a little bit about your petition and what you'd like to do?
Yes, sir. We recently purchased a house at 516 Nancy Drive there in Sweetser. I had first applied for a permit without knowing the ins and outs of variances and whatnot as far as regulations, as far as property lines and the 10% rule. Where my driveway comes up, it actually fluctuates out, let me be a foot and a half. So my intentions were to do a 2-car garage that matches right up with the pavement without having to dig anything up or add anything to it. With that being said, after I tried to apply for the permit, they made me aware of the variance that I would have to have because it's less than a 10%. From one end of my property to the other is 143 feet, which would be 14 feet apparently off the line that is requested, or I should say needed. Where that driveway pad is at, is where the property line is less than the variant, or less than the 14 feet required. So I'm asking for permission for it to be okay to build that 24 by 25 garage, 2-car garage in line with my driveway, but it's already there. My concern would be I didn't realize it would be a problem because if you look at my neighbors and there's other houses in the neighborhood that I don't think they would have gotten a variance and they're already there. And so I was advised to do the thing the right way and make myself here and go from there.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions from the board here?
I do have one.
So definitively, you are, in the variance you're asking for, that would be 4 foot from the building to the property.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're,
Yes, sir.
we're still there. Okay.
And 10 feet between the
two garage
structures.
The two structures, yes, sir, the two garages. And if you were looking at that packet, I believe, I'm sure if you have copies, Mrs. Henderson that owns that property next to me has put it in writing that she has no problem with what I planned on doing. Also, the people that we've hired to build the garage have already registered with Grant County, so they're good to go there. And then I had recently, due to my sign, and apparently you've sent letters out that I didn't know about, I have a neighbor that lives behind me who is Mark and Cecilia. He didn't give me his last name, but their only concern was how tall was the building going to be, if it was going to go all the way back to me, closer to their house. And I said, no, it is not. So they said, well, we have no problem at all.
If I may,
Yes.
we did have 2 phone calls, one, the property owner right behind and one property owner right across the street described the situation. And I did very specifically ask, do you have a positive or negative or neutral? Because they weren't going to write a letter in or anything. And both were neutral. They want to make a statement, positive or negative. Didn't really matter after they understood what was going on.
Okay. All right. Okay, you may be seated. Thank you. Is there anyone here in opposition to this petition? Come forward now. Hearing none, seeing none. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Or do you have any questions or deliberations?
Appears to be a shed there now, so that's gonna be removed, obviously. The shed's still there.
I'm
sorry. Oh,
Come on up to the.
I'm sorry.
it's okay, that's okay. The shed, is there a shed there now?
Yes, but I've actually pulled it to move it out of the way so people, when they did come by, they would see exactly what's going on.
Right.
And my plan would be to either get rid of it or utilize it.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this petition?
I would like to say that as I crossed my eyes trying to research Indiana code and Indiana residential code for the specifics, best I could come up with was an understanding that the 4 foot and for his placement to the property line and the other 6 foot that the other residence has gives 10-foot separation that would comply. I mean, that's a strong word, but it would kind of satisfy the intent of more than 3 foot for a fire separation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're safe in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? All right, at this time, I'd entertain a motion on this petition.
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion from Mr. Webb in favor of the petition. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Mr. Kirkpatrick. We have a roll call vote, please.
Michael Duke,
Yes.
Andy Ellis,
Yes.
Lois Jones,
Yes.
Chad Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Robert Webb.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you, sir. You have your variance.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing things the correct way. Appreciate it. Okay, next.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I could, it is now about 15 minutes past 7 o'clock.
Yes, it
Are we
is.
at that magic threshold?
We're at this point where to continue this meeting, we need to have a vote by this board to exceed our normal meeting time. Would anyone like to make a motion
I'll make that motion.
that we exceed?
Yeah.
We have a motion to exceed. Do we have a second? I'll second that. We have a second. A motion from Lois Jones and a second from Chad Kirkpatrick. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Michael Duke,
Yes.
Andy Ellis,
Yes.
Lois Jones,
Yes.
Chad Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Wilbur Webb.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move it along. Next on the agenda is Southern Towers special exception for a new cell tower, docket 009-26, East County Road 200 North, Marion, Indiana. You would sign in and give us your name.
Good evening, my name is Russell Brown. I'm an attorney with the Clark Quinn Law Firm. My business address is 320 North Meridian Street, Suite 1100, Indianapolis. I do have documents here that are just condensed from the file.
Would you give those to Mr. Clancy?
With me tonight is also Johnny Pell with Southern Towers, Fred Lau, who's the site acquisition personnel for this site, and Mark Ratterman, who is an Indiana licensed appraiser, who was hired by the applicants for tonight's hearing. I'll walk through the materials that are before you and give a brief overview of this site. The co-applicants here are Southern Towers, who is a regional tower company, and Verizon Wireless, who is a confirmed tenant at the top center line of the site. The petition before you tonight comes in as an attempt to settle an outstanding petition for judicial review currently pending in Grant County Circuit Court in relationship to a special exception which was denied by this on the same parent parcel in May of last year. All the materials that I have before you tonight, with the exception of Mr. Ratterman's CV, have been submitted either as part of our initial petition or as a supplemental request of staff, were provided to you tonight for ease of reference. On the second page, past the title page, show the previous location considered on this site, as well as the location that's before you this evening. The location before you tonight was chosen as an attempt to utilize the existing improvements on the site, namely the barns and silos, to shield the base of the proposed tower from the nearest residential property and structures on the site, instead of having the site located more prominently adjacent to County Road 200. The request tonight is for a grant of a 199-foot overall height, which is 195 plus a 4-foot lightning rod, which is a self-support, so it's a lattice tower. There are no guide wires for this location. That is located between 200 and 700 East and 800 East. As I will explain in a moment, this location was strategically chosen to fill an existing network need in the I-69 corridor between the Highway 18 exit and the town of Van Buren. This need cannot be met by existing wireless infrastructure in your community. As I mentioned, this location was chosen for a couple of reasons. First, it allows for the existing driveway cut on 200 to access the tower. The site will be served by an access through that parcel, which is owned by a relative of the landlord, and a utility easement will be located through that same parcel to the site. The second reason was to increase separation from nearby residential uses and to utilize the existing buildings as a ground shield. As shown on the third page there, the separation to the nearest residential structure is approximately 639 feet from the nearest tower leg to a residential dwelling structure. Other nearby residential structures are between 1,019 feet and approximately 1,946 feet from the tower leg. The tower is set back approximately 400 feet from the right-of-way, County Road 200, and set back more than 500 feet from the west property line, 770 feet from the east, and more than 2,200 feet from the south. The lease area is a 100 by 100 lease area contained in an approximately 77-acre parcel. I talked about the location of the access and utility easements. The landowner is a nearby residential homeowner, lives to the west of the tower, which and also south of 200. Upon completion, the site is a low traffic generator, generally attracting traffic only when new equipment is added to the tower for routine maintenance checks. And the location does allow for the continued agricultural use of that 77A parcel. The next slide shows the tower elevation itself. Though it is less than 200 feet, it is designed for tower and ground equipment to support Verizon and up to 3 additional co-locators. Your ordinance requires 3 carriers on a tower that is less than 200 feet in height, so we've exceeded the ordinance requirements on that location. We have submitted a letter to the file, which Southern Towers has committed that it will permit co-location on the site and design the site to accommodate co-location opportunities in excess of the minimum requirements of the ordinance. At the height of 199, it will not require lighting by the FAA, which we also think lessens the visual impact to surrounding residential users. The tower will be located in a 70 by 70 compound, which will be surrounded by that 6-foot tall wood fence to shield the view of ground equipment from all surrounding property owners. The tower exceeds any setbacks found in your ordinance, though I read them to only apply to GB and industrial classifications. Nonetheless, it exceeds any and all setbacks required in your ordinance. We have provided a fall zone letter for this site, which indicates the maximum fall radius for this is 90 foot, a 90-foot radius, and that does comply with Indiana Code 8-132.317, as noted in the staff synopsis of this site. The need for this area, site acquisition does look for any co-location opportunities here. There is no co-location opportunities within 1 mile of this location, which for a tower of less than 200 feet is the requirement of your ordinance. There are none that meet the requirements. Verizon is located on 3 nearby towers to the southwest, to the southeast, and virtually due north of this site. Yet there is inadequate wireless coverage and capacity in this area of the county. The design team has determined that a need exists to enhance coverage and capacity along the I-69 corridor. That is documented through the RF statement of need, which is also in your packet, which is submitted to accomplish the obligations of Indiana Code 8-132.3, Section 20, which explains why co-location was not chosen to meet the need and why the height here is proposed to meet the coverage objectives. I've talked about coverage and capacity with this board before. Coverage is pretty simple. You can't make a call or an in-building call from certain locations within the county. Capacity talks about the need to get on and off of the network as quickly as possible. One of the things we're doing here is trying to offload existing sites. So you do have graphic representations of both before and after of the coverage that's provided here by this proposed location. And that was noted as building coverage, which is how we're measuring the network strength at this time, given the dramatic change in residential use of wireless in our country in this county. Site selection does require appropriate spacing between existing towers, maximizing coverage and capacity with the fewest number of installations. That's a benefit to communities because it limits infrastructure, and it's a benefit to carriers as well because it allows for optimized service without expending on redundant infrastructure. But enhancing capacity sites, proximity to existing sites is of paramount importance, and that's why this location in this kind of narrow search ring was chosen for this to meet these needs. We have also provided in the materials photo simulations along County Road 200, trying to show what someone passing by or what a nearby property owner might experience in this area. While the height of the tower is noticeable, 199-foot tower is noticeable in a relatively flat area of the community. Setting it back several hundred feet from the right-of-way lessens the visual intrusiveness of this alternative location. And also note that in each of these photos, there are examples of other above-ground utility infrastructure which already exists in this area, specifically overhead utility infrastructure of varying heights. There are high-tension lines. There are more traditional residential property. serving infrastructure. In the state of Indiana, as you know, overhead above ground utility infrastructure is development for the development of rural communities, but is not contemplated in comprehensive plans. I have significant data about why wireless coverage is important in all corners of modern communities. Shared that with this board before. But in addition to my testimony, the development team has engaged Mark Ratterman, an Indiana licensed appraiser, to perform an analysis of this location and the impact, potential lack thereof, of values of residential property in proximity to above ground utility infrastructure. Mark has prepared a report, but I've asked him to come and just give a very brief analysis, summary of his analysis, and then I'll conclude our remarks.
Good evening. My name is Mark Ratterman. I'm from Indianapolis, and I believe you have a report. I am a real estate appraiser, and since 1979, which makes me pretty old. And I was asked to do a study on this, as I've been asked several times on other situations like this. And I've always found it very difficult to isolate a particular impact on an item such as this, whether it be a cell phone tower or whether it be backing up to some other negative or positive. Because housing is so complex, because you've got garages, basements, condition of the property, size of the property, and you all know this because you hear it every time you have a meeting. And so how can I isolate something like this location? And so what I did, and you'll see it in my report, is I first of all went to the property, looked at the property, looked at all the properties around it. And I pulled down all the assessed values, and that's in the report also, of all the housing around it. And I also put in the report photographs from the assessor's office of the properties that surround this property. So kind of gives you a visual of what's around the property too. And of course that has an impact on the conclusions in that regard. So then I looked at any way I could come up with to decide, all right, if you take away all the variables, what do you got? So I said, who's the biggest buyer or seller of real estate, residential real estate in the United States? I said, it's got to be the home builders. It's got to be the home builders. They sell more houses than anybody. And they study it to the nth degree, to the point that they actually buy miniaturized furniture to put in their model homes to make their rooms look bigger. And so they do all kinds of things, but they don't make too many mistakes. So what I did was I pulled up, and I do have it in the report, the number of houses that these builders build. And so then I started studying, where are these people building when it comes to cell phone towers? That was the question. And I also associated these with power lines, because they're kind of the same thing, big towers. And so I was looking at those as well. So I looked for examples of where that was the only thing. Because when you're building a house, the garage size, basement size, size of the house, architecture, those are all variables. You can do what you want there. But it's the location is what they're choosing. And so that's what I decided to look at in that regard. So in my report, I have several examples, 10 of them actually, of where people have built up right next to cell phone towers. I mean, right next to them. And when they had a choice to go someplace else. And so, and I really couldn't find any reluctance on the part of buyers or the builders to build right next to these towers. It just seems like they're adjusting to them, or they are compensating or accepting them. But I didn't see any reluctance in that regard. So what I am saying is I did not see any reluctance in the market as far as locations of these, especially in a case like this where they're 500, 600 feet away in that regard. So that's the summary of my report that you should have. So yeah, I didn't.
Mr. Ratterman, did your studies look at existing structures and their marketability after something like this is already built? I mean, looking at where they build is one thing, but understanding the impact of existing homes and their ability to be able to market it is different.
that's what I was trying to allude to. It's almost impossible to know that because of all the variables that come into size. If you got whether the basements are finished, whether they're not finished, how they take care of their houses, what they don't. So to measure the impact, you'd have to have exactly if somebody sell their house, buy their house, and then put in a cell phone tower and then immediately sell it again. And that example is impossible to find that.
So you don't have any data that suggests that the adjacent property values go down?
I have evidence that I didn't see any reluctance in the market, which is what I am saying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In conclusion, I'll point out a couple of statements. First, the petition before you does not require any variances to be constructed as presented. I believe that is important as it is in compliance with the ordinance of your ordinance. Second, this location does seek to address concerns raised by this board and others in the community brought under the previous petition, which is now under judicial review. We believe the location provides shielding in a meaningful way for surrounding property owners, and therefore we believe is ready for your consideration and approval. We have provided in our materials as well as in the file our proposed findings, favorable findings, and the special exception. We've incorporated those into the record, and members of our team are happy to answer questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'll ask one right now.
All right.
In our packet, the area plan application for a wireless facility permit. It says the number of service providers this tower can accommodate is 4.
Correct.
But you said
Verizon plus 3.
Verizon plus 3. So if I understood reading our zoning ordinance, if there's 3 or more service providers on a tower, it has to be 350 feet tall, not 190. Am I incorrect on that, Todd?
I'd have to look that one up.
My belief is that if it is above 200 feet, you have certain requirements for co-location opportunities, which we have exceeded in this location. I'm not aware.
I'm speaking of section of the area-wide zoning ordinance 153.595C.
And you're saying it needs to be,
I'm asking if there's going to be up to 4 if the size of the tower meets the area-wide zoning ordinance. Or
what you stated was
350, as I understood it, for 3 or more service providers on a tower. If it was 2,
If I may read it, the maximum tower height permitted, is calculated by applying the following. If the tower is designed to accommodate more than 2 service providers, the maximum height shall be 350 feet from grade, not minimum. It says maximum.
maximum.
So it can't be taller than that.
Okay,
So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Duke.
fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Whitfield.
Excellent observation, Bill.
Never know what you find when you read.
You were doing your homework.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
Is there anyone here in opposition to this petition? Would you come forward now and sign in?
Hello, I'm Virgil Cadle. I own the property to the east of Mr. Corey's. I received a request for a cell tower also from Verizon, but I didn't respond because I thought it would just be too close to me and my neighbors. They do have a lot of side effects. I can't believe that they want to place this tower directly across from the road from one of my neighbors. It's like putting it in their front yard.
if they have to put the cell tower up, they can easily move it to the west, where Mr. Corey has another house in Barnes, and he also has another house in Barnes also, but he wouldn't have to farm around it there, same as where he's planning on putting it, and the transmission would practically be the same. It'd just be to the west, possibly maybe 1,000 foot, and it'd be away from all the neighbors, and we wouldn't have to have the hum and the increased lightning strikes and the looking at it and everything else, the radiation and everything else that these towers do put out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to this petition? Come forward now. Seeing none, you have a couple of minutes here to rebut.
Thank you, appreciate it. I would note that I believe that the individual who spoke is about 1,000 feet from this tower. I believe that's his home. That's about 1,000 feet here. If we were to move it to the west, it would certainly be out of further away from his home, but closer to someone else's home. That there are other homes other than the landowners who would be equally as affected. So it would not be his ox that is gored, but perhaps someone else's that is gored. The location here, also, there are no natural structures. There are not a significant stand of trees, except for the individual who just spoke. But he has a stand of trees on his property, but in this area, when I drove the site tonight, this area, there's not as huge stands of trees anywhere that could be utilized to shield, but they will shield only ground equipment. You cannot hide a 199-foot tower. It does not happen. That is not how that works. That said, some of the concerns raised, I'm not your attorney. You have capable counsel here who can remind you that considering health effects for the consideration of wireless communication facilities preempted by federal law, the Telecommunications Act takes that out of your hands as long as it is more than 30 feet off of the ground. And that is exceeded here. We did have, as mentioned, have have an expert here providing his expert opinion that he did not find a causal connection or opportunity to increase the value of real estate, residential real estate in these situations. So we believe that our burden has been met. We believe we have attempted to try to address as many concerns as possible by shielding it from the most affected neighbors by utilizing existing ground equipment for ground structures, tall structures, 25, 30 feet or more, that shield a large portion of that from nearby property owners. So we've attempted to address as many concerns as could be possible on this location and would ask for your approval of the same.
Would you mind addressing in our court case two issues? Number one, the view law, and then number two, the frequency radiation, whatever you want to call it, that you brought up in our judicial review petition?
Yeah, I would say that I believe that Indiana law, as it relates to view sheds, when you start talking about an impact of your wireless communication facility on a view shed or a specific area, the language in the case that's most guiding talks about a bucolic view, which I had to go look up what bucolic means, but meaning a unique rolling hills, beautiful. This was along. I think the guiding case is along the dunes up in Michigan City.
Natural landscape.
Natural landscape. There you go.
Scenic vista.
Scenic vista. And that is the only time, to my knowledge, that Indiana law has upheld a denial based on view alone. Obviously, at this location, I could see other towers. There's a tall guide tower that's not far off across the interstate, a little bit, I think, probably 1 mile south of this location that could be seen from this location. So I don't know that exists in this location. Our argument would be that that does not exist. There's been no evidence introduced into the record that that exists. Secondly, as it relates to the requirements related to health effects or to RF emissions, Verizon is a licensed, federally licensed. These are federally licensed, federally regulated, and that is an enforcement mechanism as it relates to how those emissions are regulated, monitored, and that is, so our view is that anything, any reliance on the board from those impacts is improper and illegal under both state and federal law.
Thank you. I just bring that up because this previous placement was under judicial review in circuit court under the BZA's authority. And at a previous hearing on that, those two issues were brought up as reasons to deny it. And after researching it, it appears that those reasons might not stand, which left us down to the property value issue, I think was the third reason given in that. So that's why Mr. Branson has reminded me the forms you have to fill out are very important that you fill out on every single case in case it does go to court, because that's the first thing the judge is going to look at is your findings of facts and why you made the decision that you made. Hope that helps.
Okay, at this time, it's time for discussion, deliberations of the board. There was one point in the testimony we heard. It's very hard to tell with existing properties whether they're impacted and reduced in value or not, and how much.
It's accurate, difficult to determine something like that, like Mr. Radmer talked about it, so.
Right.
It's a very difficult thing to do.
Common sense would lead you to believe if you had two properties that you liked equally well, would you choose the one with a cell tower sitting across the road as opposed to one that did not have that?
And what if you don't have any cell coverage there? Would that have an impact?
Would that have any impact on whether or not you had service?
Nowadays it would. Could.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to cite anecdotal, but because I have come into this one, I wasn't present during the last time. But is there any truth to the story that an adjacent property owner tried to sell their property and had problems with somebody wanting to buy it because of the concern about the cell tower? Does anybody know that?
That was in previous testimony, which was in May of last year. And that,
a little bit of an indicator.
Yes, that a buyer who was a relative backed out of the sale. We don't know at this point anything about that because they're not here tonight. They were given notice, correct? The owner of the property was living in Florida and wanted to sell the property. But they're not here tonight. We don't know whether that sale went through, dropped. We don't know anything about it. We can't really consider that.
I have a couple of questions.
And so just to add to that, I believe we just had one phone call concerning the public hearing, and it was neutral. I just explained what was going on. Again, as positive, negative, neutral, it was neutral.
Couple observations.
We've closed the public hearing, sir. Sorry.
I live out there in that area. And I think the cell tower that you mentioned that you can see in the distance is about 1,000 feet from my property. In the time that I've lived there, going back to 1964 with my family, we've taken lightning strikes of three times and had to replace a deep well, a 4-inch submersible pump 3 times. I also can say that it is common that operators in the area will use crop dusters to spray their different chemicals for the fields during season. I take note that in the FAA opinion that there's no hazard. I'm uncomfortable that a tower goes up that does not have navigation lights to make it as visible as possible, even during the daytime when crop dusters do work. I don't know if it's in our purview to put a contingency in there that we could pass the variance with a requirement for navigational hazard lights to be a part of the construction, even though the FAA says it's not necessary. But I would advocate for that requirement. And I don't know what you do about lightning, because Mother Nature is a whole lot more powerful than anything man's going to make. But to the extent that a lightning draw could be affected, it would maybe relieve a little bit of the anxiety of the surrounding property owners. I think about that every time a thunderstorm comes through for the tower that's next to me. Just comments, consideration.
Anyone else?
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
For Mr. Glickfield.
Yes.
Who brought the matter before judicial review?
The tower company, I believe.
The tower company did?
And to answer your first question, yes, you may add. And under 153-101, under the local ordinance, paragraph D, in granting a special exception, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose more restrictive requirements upon the permit as it may deem necessary in order that the purpose and intent of this chapter are served.
Yes, right. I have a question for you. Now, would you consider this to be a location change? It's still on the same parcel.
It's in a different area. So I think the goal was to put it on another piece of the land that would not be as intrusive as it was previously. I think that was the goal in trying to resolve this matter.
I somewhat agree with that, but I
was not at the
do
first
have, the point to address that we're in less than a year, and when you're negatively decided, you can come back in a year. But we did make a provision that he could come back if he changed to a different location.
Yes.
So I wanted to define, are we at a different location?
I would contend it is a different location.
Okay.
May I make one more point, Mr. Harmon?
Sure.
Because I know this is a very important matter. When you look at 153-101 and the granting of special exceptions, I know Mr. Hardman knows this, but for you members who are a little bit newer, under paragraph A, the BZA shall approve or deny a special exception for the terms of the chapter only after a public hearing if it finds that 1, the proposed special exception is to be located in a district where the use may be permitted. I don't think there's any dispute on that.
No dispute.
2, the requirements set forth in the district, the section for the special exception will be met. You said there is no need for variances, so I think there's no dispute there.
Right.
What you're getting to then is 3, the special exception is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of these regulations, will not substantially and permanently injure the appropriate use of neighboring property, and will serve the public convenience and welfare. It sounds like what you're focusing on is whether it will not substantially and permanently injure the appropriate use of neighboring property.
Correct. And this time we don't have testimony on that.
Yeah.
That we had 10 months ago. Are there any further questions?
Well, I will express my opinion of a little bit of heartburn that the representative for the tower company puts down a judicial, what's the right term here that I'm looking for?
Review?
No, not, they bring it into the judicial court for seeking relief because they didn't like the decision that was made by the Board of Zoning Appeals under the previous membership. And you know, am I supposed to take that as a 2x4 that's sitting there over my head?
Well, the first hearing was a little bit different in the fact that a couple issues were raised. That's why I asked the gentleman to expound a little bit on that. Frankly, statutorily, under federal law and local law, do not apply. I mean, they were said in the hearing, but they will not pass judicial review. That left the third issue of the decrease in value. And that's where you're at in the judicial review. Whether that passes judicial review remains to be seen. But two of the three reasons are gone. They are not there. So that is where, basically, that's why I read the special exception, what you've got to find and what you've got to find in your findings of facts need to pass that paragraph 3. Otherwise, it's going to be kicked right back and the court's going to say, no, you're incorrect, that didn't meet it. And then I'm not sure what other option you have. So that's why I read that. That's very important, your findings on that.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
To ask. I know we're running late.
That's all right.
This is to the representative, or the technical expert. Has an intermodulation study been performed or been scheduled to be performed? Because as my eyes were going cross reading the documents, I didn't see anything that jumped out and said intermodulation study. So is that something that should have been in the packet, or is that something that will come later as construction is complete?
So a couple of things. One of our statement of need submitted by the RF engineer indicates that that's a requirement of their licensing. And I think that what it says is transmit frequencies within licensed frequency bands and the power limitations by FCC regulation, and we'll go through a complete rigorous regulatory process before it comes on air, which is what I would presume.
So it would be tested at a subsequent point as equipment was coming on board. Thank you.
I do kind of struggle a little bit with the fact that since they moved the tower back a little bit, that it doesn't have the same impact in terms of scenery or impact on the adjacent neighbors. I guess they could have moved it 3 feet and would have it constituted that they changed location.
I'd find that hard to accept.
Oh.
Moving behind the barns, I find questionable. That's why I brought it up.
It only hides the 30.
Right.
It only hides the bottom 30 or so feet of the building, the barns or that, the silos.
Appears to make the access easier to get to, though.
Yeah, it doesn't make it any different as far as one driveway going into it, right straight back. Yeah. Okay, well, we have to reach a decision. Now, consider this. We'll probably have a lot more of these to do. And based on the law and the distances allowed, this one's not a bad petition. I have to admit that.
As far as obviously people always worry about what their value of their property is going to be, right? And that's very difficult. Mr. Ratterman expressed that, and I can tell you he is recognized as one of the best in the state, if not this area. I know him a tiny bit. He's very good at what he does, and it's very difficult to value something like this because they're just things like this doesn't, sell and to find comparable sales and so forth. So something very difficult to find the information to give it make a determination if it does affect it in a negative way or does not affect it in a negative way.
Yes.
Something very difficult to do. No doubt about it.
It's difficult to put an actual value on that.
Absolutely.
Common sense would tell you, yes, there's a difference.
Real estate common sense isn't always.
But you might still find a buyer that you will pay your price.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the harder things to prove is how much.
Absolutely.
Is my property devalued?
Absolutely. Yep.
There might be a range you could say it was devalued in, but that'd be difficult as
In the
well.
market we're in, it would be hard to determine because things are selling.
Things are selling.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So.
Okay. I think it's time for a decision. Is there anything else? Okay. We'll entertain a motion.
What you said about the amendment to have the lights on the
If we're at that point,
Yeah.
I would, with some hesitation, I would move that we grant the special exception with the requirement that navigational lights be placed upon the top of the tower, which would be consistent with other towers in the area up and down or along 69 that have navigation lights, red lights, white lights on them.
Some have them at the top and in the middle.
On the top and in the middle, make it as visible as possible.
And I don't want to muddy things here, but at the same time, I'm still sensitive to the neighbors that are going to live around this. And the flashing lights on top, and I know where you're coming from a safety standpoint.
But they're irritating.
But that's a good word for it.
I speak that from experience. I lived in the Muncie, Indiana area when a plane taking off from the local airport 4 or 5 miles out to the west of the airport clipped one of these towers. And the pilot and his passengers lost their life and the tower was damaged. They do, and that was public transportation. That wasn't a crop duster.
Well, for crop duster, there's a little bit of inherent risk there. I being a farmer, I see
Things could be said.
how they
Power lines.
Yeah, power lines and trees.
Well, I watched them. But I appreciate your concern, Andy.
All right, are you making an actual motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Well, what's the motion? Let's be clear with the motion, please.
Make a motion that with a contingency of placing navigational lights on the top and the middle of the tower for purposes of visibility, that the special exception be approved.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Duke, a second by Mr. Webb. Would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Michael Duke,
Yes.
Andy Ellis,
Yes.
Lois Jones,
Yes.
Chad Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Wilbur Webb.
Yes.
Motion passed. You have your special exception, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Last public hearing, Matthew Lemke, side yard setback, docket 010-26-303, South Main Street, Jonesboro. Are you here?
He withdrew the petition.
Okay. At this time, we have gone way over. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
We need to table the necessary office work.
Yes, we need to table the rest of the
I would make motion that we table the remaining items.
remaining items, yes, and continue this
Before
meeting.
we do that, the guy didn't sign one from Jonesboro. I think he represents Jonesboro. He never signed that.
Oh, Clayton,
Anyway,
would you sign the register
yeah,
since you
make sure
spoke?
everybody gets signed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Second.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Mike, you seconded that, didn't you? You seconded that? That's what I thought.
I know what you mean.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
8 o'clock.